Welcome back, friends. Thanks for being here. Today, we're going to try a couple of different things. Number one, we're going to try and play Planet X3, a fantastic game from the 8-bit guy that's supposed to work on 8-bit computers. And number two, we're going to upgrade this MS-DOS 1.25 machine to MS-DOS 2.11. And we'll show you how hard that was back in the day. Stick around. Oh, and be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the join button, ring the bell, share this on all your social media, do all that awesome stuff that makes YouTube happy and kind of makes me happy too. Stick around. All right, we got our good old VirtualBox set up. We've got the DOS 1.25 floppy in. Let me add in the floppy disk for Planet X3. I think that's the one. We will find out. Start it up. MS-DOS 1.25, lightning fast startup. It thinks it is January 1st, 1980, because it doesn't understand the clock. It thinks that the time is 10:55, which is actually the right time. All right, let's see what's in the B drive. There's our Planet X3 game, like I thought it was. There it is, px3.com. Let's run Planet X3. Oh, it crashed. This is probably more a fault of MS-DOS 1.25 than anything else. So, on with the upgrade. This is going to be really hard to upgrade. First thing we need to do is power down the machine. And we're off. Go into storage. Let's pull out our DOS 1.25 floppy and let's put in our DOS 2.11 floppy. This is a copy of a leading edge floppy disk that was uploaded to WinWorld. I'll put a link in the description below. All right, we've got that one in. Start. And there it is. MS-DOS 2.11. And that's all it took to upgrade software back in the day, upgrade operating systems back in the day. Pull the old floppy out, put a new floppy in. Done. This one thinks that the date is 0-00-1980. Let's change that to today's date, which is 08-15-2020 at the time of recording. And it thinks the time is 11:11:11 and 11 microseconds. All right, let's do current time of 10:57:00.00, just to be precise. Let's see if it liked the 2020 date, and it did. Let's see if that survives a reboot. It did not survive a reboot. Okay. Let's go to the B drive. Hey, that floppy disk still works. Let's try PX3 again. And let's see if we can run it in video mode 1, 320 by 204 color. And because of the way VirtualBox works, there's not going to be any sound. So let's pick PC speaker. Oh, there it is. Look at that beautiful CGA color palette. Okay, that's great. Let's change CGA palette. Oh, you had several choices of CGA palettes back in the day. They were ugly or uglier in magenta, white, cyan, and black. Or the other choices were ugly and uglier in this set of colors, which was green, orange, and yellow. Awesome. Let's get out of here. Screen width standard. Screen width reduced. Go back to standard. That's probably for performance. Let's turn the mouse on. Please do not press this button again. All right, let's change the color palette. Change the color palette. Let's change the graphics mode and see what we can come up with. Have a nice DOS. Thank you, David. Let's try TGA Composite 160 by 216 color and see if that works. Again, no audio. That is not working right, but I didn't expect it to work right because this is not hooked up through composite mode. Under normal circumstances, for CGA Composite, you would be using the RCA plug on the back of the screen. On the back of the screen, yes, but also on the back of the video card instead of the DB9 connector. Let's try number 5. 4 gray colors instead of 4 weird colors. Oh, that looks so much prettier. That almost looks like a video game. There we go, moving all around. No CGA palette to choose from here. Let's hit exit. Let's hit exit. Let's run it again. Let's see if Planetronics works. Nope. And that makes sense because I did not put the Tandy files on here. All right, so that was pretty cool. Maybe some other day I'll just do a live stream on Twitch of me playing Planet X3. It's a pretty fun game. I have not had the joy of beating it yet, so I'm still struggling my way through. David, awesome game. Really enjoy it. It does run in DOSBox just fine. Let's change floppy disks real quick because this leading edge version of MS-DOS 2.11 came with 2 different disks. Storage. Choose work disk. All right, so now we've changed over the disk in the B drive. And as you can see, there's something different in there. Let's take a look at some of the DOS commands that we have. So first, like we tried in the last video, let's try and change the prompt because I like having more information in my prompt. Okay, so the prompt command works now. I've got a little bit more information in the prompt. And let's go back to the A disk and see what's on there. Command com, which is all of the DOS commands. Debug, which is a way to enter in data and monitor contents of memory and single step through very basic programs. I used to use this by typing in programs from the back of magazines back in the day, and it was always something like 8000 space 08 space FB space 8C space 2A, and you had no idea what any of it was, but it was because it was hex codes to make it easier for you to type and make it quicker for you to type in. Instead of typing in a really long program, you would type in just what the hexadecimal looked like for the computer. Sort, let's see, dir pipe to sort. And it indeed did sort it alphabetically, so sort works. And if you saw real quickly, well, quickly is a relative term, as it scrolls by on the screen, you'll see that it actually created a couple of temporary files to get the job done. Let's see what else is on here. Disk copy. Disk copy would copy an entire floppy disk contents from one disk to another, just like it sounds. But disk copy was smart enough that it would copy from the same disk drive to another disk in the same disk drive. And what it would do is it would copy a little bit into memory. It would prompt you to switch disks. It would copy a little bit out of memory. It would prompt you to switch disks back to the original disk. Okay, next is RAM disk. And I guess back in the day when you had 512K of memory in your machine or 640K of memory in your machine, there was plenty left over that you didn't need to run all of your programs. So you could create a disk in RAM. I don't know if MS-DOS 2 supported any extra memory like EMS. You would need some drivers for that anyway, but you could put a RAM disk in and move programs from the floppy disk to the RAM disk in order to run them faster. So Some programs didn't take a whole lot of space, some programs did. And if you had a program that didn't take a lot of space and you wanted faster access, you could create a RAM disk for that. Let's see what size is. All right, size looks like it's a non-DOS program that tells you the size of the files in your directory. See if it's got any built-in help or anything. Yeah, so it's made by Phoenix Software Associates. It's not been made by Microsoft, and it doesn't understand the /?, like more modern software would. So it just kind of pukes and gives you its help screen and says, you didn't ask me for any files, so I'm going to tell you that no files are no bytes. Very smart. Basic A is the advanced version of basic. Stop. Let's see what stop does. Okay, that indeed stopped. Reboot. It did not save the time or date or the prompt, obviously, because that's a DOS command, not a BIOS command. And I always did the $P, $G, and then a space and a $, and that gives me a little bit of a space between the prompt. If you don't do that, $P, $G was the normal one that everybody did. You get no space at the prompt. Ooh, clear screen works, CLS works. That did not work in 1.2.5. When you run the command, it's bumped right up against that greater than sign. And I'm not a big fan of that. So I always did prompt, $P, $G, space, $. And I had some more advanced prompts that I used that were pretty neat. And we'll get into that when we get up to DOS 3.3 in the next video. Because DOS 3.3 was what I started with, and that's where all of my fun and magic and everything came into play. So now we clear the screen, and you can see there's a little bit of a space between the prompt and the command, and that just looks tidy. Happy little spaces. All right. So we tried the stop command. That did, in fact, stop. Let's see if the type command shows up in command com now. Yep. And there is a more command now. More from the stop command. Let's see if we can do redirects. We already tried piping with the sort. That worked. Yep, we can do redirects. That worked. But there's still not a whole lot going on. Size of stop.com. 61 bytes. So that's probably all 61 bytes of that command on the screen. And there's no text in there that says what it does or anything. And I don't have an owner's manual for leading edge DOS 2.11. Print.com. Name of list device PRN, or you would also say LPT1. So that goes to the printer. Resonant part of print installed, print queue is empty. So this would have been a print spooler to allow you to speed up your prints. So what would happen is you would print a file and the printer wasn't very fast and the printer didn't have any memory. So the computer would just sit there and send as many characters as it could as the print happened. So if you did an entire line of text and the print queue took 30 seconds to print out that line of text, the computer just sat there and waited until that 30 seconds was over, and then it sent the second line of text and it waited until the printing was over, and so on. So this, it looks like it's a print spooler piece of software, and when you print, it will intercept anything that goes out to the PRN or the LPT1 port and save it in memory and parse it out in the background while you got back to work and did other things. Massive productivity boost back in the day. What's next? Link. This is probably for assembly language. Yep, Microsoft Object Linker, and it's going to try and link a couple of object files into an executable. Awesome stuff. fdisk. So it looks like MS-DOS 2.1 supports hard disks. Let's see what kind of partition data we have. We have a 40 cylinder disk, not a 40 meg or 40 gig or anything like that. This disk has 40 cylinders. Let's see, since it already exists as a partition, let's see if we can access it. It would be the C drive, and we can't. So let's try and delete the partition and recreate it. No DOS partition to delete. It doesn't know how, because it thinks it's a non-DOS partition. Press escape. And it looks like there's no way to delete any non-DOS partitions. So we'll have to leave that as it were. And in testing this offline, fdisk didn't support the disk structure, disk system built into VirtualBox. So it wouldn't have worked anyway. Assign. Awesome, that worked well. So when I used assign, it was a way of changing subfolders or drives into other drive letters. Tree. Directory path listing for volume. No subdirectories exist. Well, let's make some. Subdirectories. There we go. So there's a path in test, which is what I just created. And it shows me that there's no subdirectories inside of test. Let's go inside of test. And let's make another subdirectory. All right. So path test has a subdirectory of test2. Path test/test2 has no subdirectories. And if you type things right, they work, and if you don't, it complains. Let's see if RD works also. RD works also. And tree shows no subdirectories exist. Nothing gets by this machine. Basic is the non-advanced version of basic. Let's see what change is. Syntax error in command line, that's helpful. Still don't know what it is. Controller not installed, spooler redirected from LPT to LPT, whatever. Syntax error in command line. Change LPT1 to LPT2. See if that works. Controller not installed. Okay, maybe we'll find the controller as we keep looking. Looks like it has more stuff to do with printing. Edlin. Yep, Edlin still sucks. We'll leave it at that. Find invalid number of parameters. So let's do dir pipe to find, and we want to look for change. See if we can find any loose change. Hey, look, it found change. And so what you saw there was all of the text from the command dir was piped into the command find, dir short for directory, dir pipe to find, and I looked for the word change, and it spit out only the line that included change. And it has to be exactly that. If I look for lowercase change, I won't find any. And there was a way to ignore case. Let's see if that works. Yep, that didn't do it. Let's see if we can recall previous commands with the F3 key, and we can. Oh, the command line experience is getting better all the time. All right, let's see if we can do inverted sorts, search for everything that doesn't include change. And there's the two pipe files that I was talking about, pipe 1, pipe 2. Those are the temporary files that it created in order to get the work done of piping it into find and then doing its magic, and then those files are now gone. So a quick intro to the find command. I think find gets better as DOS gets better. Sys. The sys command is a way to install operating system files onto another disk, so you can make another disk bootable. So I could say sys b:, and if there was a blank disk in the B drive, it would install the operating system on that, so I could boot it. And so what you would do with that is, if you had, say, WordStar or WordPerfect, you could put the operating system files just enough to get the machine booted, and an autoexec.bat file to start WordStar, and then you'd stick the disk in the drive, you'd turn it on, and it would immediately launch into WordStar. So that was a pretty handy thing. Speaking of autoexec.bat, there is not one on here. Let's see if we can create a file from the console, because I'm not going to use Edlin. Copy con autoexec.bat. I'm going to put in echo hello. And then I'm going to save it with Control Z. Nope. Control D. Nope. It was Control C. Z as in zebra. Control Z. Now let's look at the contents of that file. And that diamond is the Control D character. And it worked, and it put the diamond on the screen. So let's clean that up by recreating the entire file, because I don't like Edlin that much that it's easier to recreate the entire file than it is to edit it with Edlin. Echo hello, Control Z, press the enter key to actually get it to understand that I pressed Control Z, and let's try a reboot. And now it should run the autoexec.bat file instead of stopping and asking me for the date and time. And there it is. It says echo hello, and it echoed hello, and it did not ask me for the date and time. And it says the release date for this was August 28th, 1985. Pretty cool. Let's change that autoexec.bat file while we're on the subject. Let's turn command line echoing to the screen off. Let's do our prompt setting. We don't really care about the date and time, so we're not going to ask for that, even though we know it's off. And let's do what David did. Have a nice DOS. And then let's save it. And let's reboot. Okay, so it didn't like the @echo off, which I think is a newer, a DOS 3.3 thing, not a DOS 2.1 thing. Let's do that all over again. Copy con, autoexec.bat, echo off. And reboot. All right, so now it tells us that we asked it to turn the echo off, because we did. And then it does the prompt setting, and it says, have a nice DOS. So if the @ symbol had worked, it would have not shown the echo off command, and it would have just looked a little bit more polished. But now we've got our prompt, and we've got our welcome to our computer message that says, have a nice DOS. And let's get back to where we were. That was sys, so mode command. And before, the mode command didn't understand a whole lot of things. Let's see if it's any better now. CO80. Yep, mode CO40. And now we're in 40 column mode instead of 80 column mode. This looks more like the Commodore 64. Mode mono. Mode CO80. So there you could switch between 40 column mode, 80 column mode, and monochrome mode if you had a monochrome video display adapter installed, an MDA. And mode does a bunch of other things besides just that. Backup. Invalid number of parameters. So backup would back up your files from your floppy disk to another floppy disk, or from your floppy disk to a tape drive. And I don't have any blank floppy disks that I want to mess with. Xassign. That was handy. Xassign.com. Probably not a DOS command, probably something that came with the leading edge version of DOS that we're running right now. Color, awesome. And the corresponding mono, awesome. Version 1.1 of color.com. Good to know. All right, there's the autoexec bat file that I made. Check disk. We'll check a disk and attempt to repair it. And it will also tell you your amount of free memory. Let's check the disk in B. Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. And we have 640K of memory. Check the disk in A. Nothing wrong with that disk either. We've already used more before. Let's try it again. More. Let's look at the contents of the spool.bin file. Nope. There we go. The spool.bin file was produced by Paul D. Assailin for Leading Edge Products. And that's probably a device driver that goes in your config.sys file, config.sys file. I don't know that there's anything big enough here to scroll off the screen. Format would format floppy disks or hard disks. And we have a non-DOS partition on our hard disk in here, so we can't do that. Or at least we have a DOS partition on here that MS-DOS 2.1 can't understand. Comp would be to compare files. Comp chmod.com with chmod.com. And a file mark not found. Files compare okay. Compare more files. No. Xtree. Okay, so Xtree is a little prettier version than Tree was. Clean up the mess that we made. What do we got? Mono we already tried. Recover is the opposite of backup. exe to bin is how you would convert an executable file to a binary file. Probably more assembly level type stuff. And that file not found is probably it telling me that the file I'm trying to convert isn't found. Disk comp is a way to compare disks. Instead of comparing just files, you're comparing entire disks. Let's compare the disk in the A drive with the disk in the B drive. Insert first disk in A, insert second disk in B, strike any key when ready. Key has been stricken. Struct. Comparing 9 sectors per track, 2 sides, and there was a couple of compare errors because the disks are not the same, and I wouldn't expect them to be the same. Graphics. Graphics probably goes along with color and mono. I spelled com wrong. And I frequently spell com wrong in that exact same way. Graphics print screen utility is installed. Okay, so if you had a graphics program running and you hit the print screen key, it would try and send that to your printer in a way that your printer would understand, so you'd have a nice printout of your screen in graphics mode. We already did... No, so restore is the opposite of recover. Nice. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let's bring the mouse. Where's my mouse? There we go. Chris Peters helped with the new DOS. Microsoft rules, okay? Awesome. What does recover do? Invalid number of parameters. Recover B drive. Press any key to begin recovery of the files on drive B. I don't want to begin the recovery of files on drive B. But I would assume that it's going to try and recover files from drive B. Okay, so that takes us through restore and recover. GW basic. If you know what the GW and GW basic stands for, leave a comment below. GW basic 2.02, compatibility software GW basic 2.02, copyright Phoenix software in 84 and Microsoft in 83 and 84. Print hello. Okay, it did that. Print hello world, it did that too. Putting the quotes in the right place helps. Print hello world. Let's run that program, and it'll just print hello world forever. And the Control-C key does not stop it. But the reboot key stops it. Let's see what's on the working disk instead of the master disk. A little bit more stuff, but it looks a lot like the same stuff. And the screen's not big enough to show me both of them at the same time. So the first row is command-com, ANSI-sys, edlin.com, checkdisk.com, and recover.com. Command, ANSI, edlin, checkdisk, recover. All right, so now we have the second row and on that we can go with. Debug, sort, disk copy, RAM disk, size, basic A, stop. Print, link, fdisk, assign, tree, basic change. Sys mode, backup, x assign, color, color set. Color set is new. More, format comp, chmod. We didn't go over chmod, we got to do that real quick. Xtree, mono, dir, browse. Okay, so let's do color set. Color set green. Number too large or non-numeric. That is indeed a non-numeric non-number. Color set 12. Ooh, there we go. Red on the screen. Color set 1. Blue. That might be hard to see. It's hard to see for me. Color set 3. Cyan. And cyan was actually my favorite color for working on the computer back in the day. Back in the day. What did we say before we said back in the day? All right, so that's color set. DDIR. DDIR must be short for double dir. I don't know what the 40 is at the bottom of the screen. That's nice. Browse. File not found. Browse ddir.com. Charles Petzold. 1985. Needs DOS 2.0. Memory problem. Command problem. Comspec equals. Press any key to continue. So I can use the arrow keys to move around the screen. Up and down, left and right. And by left and right, I mean I can go to the right, and when I hit the left key, it goes all the way back to the beginning. Q for quit. Nope. Escape. Escape. Oh, and chmod was something that we were supposed to look at. List or set file attributes. Chmod star. Let's see everything here. Nope. chmodstop.com. So it has the A attribute, which would be archive, and then it's got a couple of dots. So chmod io.sys ASRH, which is archive, system, read-only, and hidden. So I don't know what that last dot is for. Let's see what it says. System, read-only, hidden, archive, volume ID. So chmod b:. Volume ID cannot be changed. Each file is listed with the new or current attributes. The file specifier may be a full path name. Okay. So there were a couple of utilities that put these system attributes on the screen, but they put them in a different order. So this is ASRH, and my favorite was the one that showed it as RASH, or rash. So archive means that this file has been changed since the last backup. The backup command that I showed you before would have copied the stop.com and the iosys.com file to the backup media, and it would have reset the archive bit to not exist. And then the next time the file was updated, the operating system would automatically turn the archive bit back on. So the backup program would know that that file had been touched and needs to be backed up. Or if the file had never changed, it would leave the archive bit off. And when the backup command ran, it would skip that file altogether. S means it is a system file. R means that it is read-only, and hidden means that it is hidden. And those are all pretty straightforward things. System, let's see, chmod b:, / whoops, /star dot star. It's going to show me all the files on the disk, and let's recall that and pipe it to more. I put caps lock on by accident, won't hurt anything. So now we can see there's iosys, MS-DOS sys, command com, and all of the files. All of the files have the archive bit set, but only the iosys and MS-DOS sys files have the system, read-only, and hidden. And since they're hidden, that's why they didn't show up in the directory command that we've been running all day long. And since they're set for system, the operating system will attempt to use those when it boots. And there are those pipe files that I was showing you. I think this is the only version of DOS that I have seen the pipe files show up on disk. So newer versions hide those pipe commands from you or put those files in some other location so that they don't bug you. All right, so there is the contents of the second disk. Nothing really fancy about that. All right, folks, that's it for MS-DOS 2.11. Links below to the files that I downloaded for the leading edge floppy disks. And stick around for the next video in the series. The next one, we're going to install, upgrade, migrate from DOS 2.11 to DOS 3.30. It's actually just as easy to do it on a floppy disk system, but there are some added things that you can do with a hard disk system, and we'll play with that. See you next time. Thanks for being awesome.